Deals walk as the board gets owned. Welcome to Dad's Drafts, your new homegrown.
Hello good people and welcome to Dad's Drafts and welcome to this guide of the new Spider-Man set with the best commons and uncommons for your upcoming sealed event, or maybe even if you do some drafts in the future with the set. I'm going to give you my opinion on the best commons and uncommons and why. Now I will also give you some tips about the set overall, the new or maybe returning mechanics. One thing I will say up front, I think that the green-white combination might probably be the strongest archetype, but that's not why you're here. Let's get right into this. I'm going to go through all the first commons and then all the uncommons of each color. And because there's quite some multicolored cards, I will also go through the best common and uncommon multicolored cards and some honorable mentions of the artifacts. Now let's get right into it. First, we are going to start with, of course, white. Now, for white, one of the first, and it is a bit of a classic because it was also, I think, best common in the last set. It's pretty much the Banishing Light, but with a different name. It's Web Up. It's an enchantment. It says when this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. The only downside to this is that it's at sorcery speed, but other than that, 3 mana to pretty much remove anything is very, very good. So you should pick this very highly. Then we get to Spider-Man Web Slinger, and this is where the new mechanic actually is shown. It's called Web Slinging, and it says you may cast this spell for 1, in this case, if you also return a tapped creature to its owner's hand, and then you put a 3/3 into play. Now, I think the Web Slinging thing can be pretty strong because there's quite some enter the battlefield abilities which you can combine this with. The upcoming card, I think, is an amazing example of that. But, of course, it is a bit aggressive. You need to have tapped creatures, so you need to be attacking, and then only you can use the web slinging ability. So you should also look at this at its worst. And what it's at its worst is a 3/3 for 3 mana. But there's also another downside. It is a legendary creature, and actually it's a common legendary creature, which means there are many of these in the set. And I am not too enthused about that. I think they did it simply so you cannot put like a broken combination of many of them into your deck with, for instance, drafting, where you can pick as many as you want. But I think when it comes to the drafting part, where you get past cards, at some point I think you maybe want 2 legendary creatures and then you just don't want any more. So I think it will be often the case that if your color is open, there's no need to pick legendary creatures highly, the common ones, simply because they will be around a lot and people will not pick more than 2. When it comes to other cards, which are common and maybe pretty good, then I think people will actually pick more than 2. And the last white common is going to be City Pigeon. It's a 1/1 flyer, which of course is not very hot. And when this creature leaves the battlefield, create a food token. Now, be wary, it is not when it dies. So this is one of the main things I think you need to get the whole web slinging thing going. Imagine you play the City Pigeon on turn 1. Then on turn 2, you attack with it, you deal 1 damage, you have a tapped creature, you play Spider-Man for 1, and then your City Pigeon again. This means that you have had quite a lot of value on turn 2. You have a 1/1 flyer and a 3/3 on the board, together with a food token. I think that's pretty much going to be the dream. Web slinging is often cheaper than normal cast, but not always, which we will probably get into later. Now for the white uncommons. I think one of the best white uncommons is Silver Sable, Mercenary Leader. It is a mercenary hero. When it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature, and when it attacks, target modified creature you control gains a lifelink until end of turn. Now, modified is a returning mechanic. It was not particularly strong in previous sets. I can't really remember which set it was, but I think this is an excellent card. If you play this and you put the counter on something else and they remove this, you will still get some value from the enter the battlefield. And if you get to attack with this, lifelink is actually pretty decent. So I think this will be a card which is, well, one that you should pick highly. On to the next one, Spider UK. It's a legendary creature, Spider Human Hero. Now it's also important to note that the spider creature type is also important because, especially in green-white, there's a lot of spiders and things that do stuff with spiders. So also keep an eye on the creature type. There's also other creature types, but we'll get into that later. This one is actually a 4-drop, but you can web sling it for 1 cheaper. Then it says at the beginning of your end step, if 2 or more creatures enter the battlefield under your control this turn, you draw a card and gain 2 life. Now I think this is one of the best, maybe the best white uncommon, simply because if you are, for instance, on turn 4, you can sling this in for 1, return a pigeon, for instance, and then play that pigeon. You will get a card draw and 2 life. Also, this doesn't have to be the one that also entered. So if you have this laying around, it survives for a turn. Next turn you can play maybe a 2-drop and a 4-drop, because it's whatever, turn 6, or maybe on turn 5, a 2-drop and a 3-drop. The advantage will absolutely be amazing. Now, off to the last best uncommon for white is a Sudden Strike, 2 mana for destroy target attacking or blocking creature. I think this is a decent effect anyway, but I think it's particularly good in this scenario because since you are web slinging, you want to have tapped creatures, which means you need tricks like these. If you attack with a creature because you want to activate your web slinging in the second main phase, it would be useful if that creature survives. If it dies, you cannot do the web slinging part. So I think that this removal spell is one of the best that you can actually have because it guarantees that you can actually have a tapped creature at the end of your combat. Now off to the next color, which is blue. The best blue commons, in my opinion, are Whoosh. Now this is just a reprint from previous sets where you can cast it for 2 and then return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Very good trick. But if you pay some more, you can actually draw a card too. I think this will be one of the best uncommons for blue, especially if we're going into the bit more control-y side. You should pick this. Very good. Next one is Unstable Experiment. Very nice art, by the way. It's an instant, and it says for 2, target player draws a card, then up to 1 target creature you control connives. Now, connive is a returning mechanic. I think it was in the detective set. It was also around. What does it do? You draw a card and you discard a card. If the discarded card was a non-land card, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. The reason that I think that this will be very good is because it plays into many things. First of all, it's an instant speed. You draw a card, or your teammate or your opponent if you for some reason want him to, and then you have a creature or a creature that connives. Now, it is pretty much 2 mana, draw a card, and potentially put a counter on something at instant speed, which is a combat trick. But then, if you discard a card which has the new mechanic, which I think is Mayhem, which means that whenever you discard it, it becomes pretty much cheaper, you can play this, you can do many things with this. So I think this will be a very interesting card which goes into many different decks. Now off to the blue, the last blue common. It's Spider-Man No More. It's an enchant aura. When you enchant the creature, it becomes a citizen with base power and toughness 1/1, and it has defender and loses all other abilities. So pretty much you just pacify a creature the opponent has, but they can still chump with it if they want, but they cannot attack with it, and it doesn't have any other abilities anymore. So it's just a dumb 1/1 that they can block with. Off to the blue uncommons. The first one is Flying Octobot, and here we get into the other creature archetype, which is villains. Now this itself is a villain, which is relevant. It is a 1/1 flyer for 2, which of course is not amazing, but when another villain you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. This is triggered only once each turn. Now if you play this on turn 2, and the next turn you play any kind of villain, which I think there's plenty of, especially in blue-black, this is a 2/2 flyer for 2, which will go the distance and will probably only keep growing. So I think you should pick this card very highly. Next one, Spiderbite Web Warden. It's a legendary creature, Spider Avatar Hero, for 3 mana, 2/2. When it enters, return it to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Now with this you can do many things. You can bounce your opponent's creature, you can bounce an enchantment that your opponent put on your creature if you badly want to. The only downside to this is that it's actually legendary, which makes it less appealing for you to play more than 2. If you want to be careful with the legendary rule, if I were you, I would only play like 2 of the same creature and no more than that, because it would be a shame if you have to sacrifice your own creature. Now in this case it would not be the end of the world because it has a decent enter the battlefield ability, so then it would be just 3 mana bounce something, but I don't think anybody would enjoy sacrificing your own creatures. And for the last one, it's Robotics Mastery. I think this is an amazing card. It's a 5 mana flash enchantment aura. You enchant a creature. When this aura enters, create 2 1/1 colorless robot artifact creature tokens with flying. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2. Of course, there's a chance that you get blown out when playing this. If the opponent has a combat trick or whatever, then it could be very, very catastrophic. But if you're careful with this and you only use this when the opponent is tapped out or you're pretty sure your opponent has nothing, this can be an amazing trick. You can let your creature survive, kill something the opponent has, and then in the backswing you suddenly have 2 1/1 flyers, which you can put counters on or whatever with other cards. So Robotics Mastery, very interesting card, and I think it will do very well. Off to the next color, which of course is black. The first black common is a 1 mana and 1 black mana, instant speed. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. It's Scorpion Sting, an amazing trick. For 2 mana it does a lot of work. It can kill many creatures, it can kill flying creatures, it can be a great combat trick. Very, very versatile card, and I would pick it very highly. Now the next one is Common Crook. We've seen this before. I think in the last set it was the rats. The 2/2 that when it dies create a treasure token. It is, I think, pretty decent, not amazing, but if this dies at some point and you can get the treasure and use the treasure to ramp, for instance, then maybe it would have been worth it. But it also has a relevant creature type villain, which you want to have in blue-black, and a 2 mana villain which triggers your other things, I think will be very, very relevant. And there's Venom's Hunger, and this spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a villain. Well, whenever you play black, you will have many, many villains. Destroy target creature, you gain 2 life. Overall, except for the Scorpion Sting, I am not really thrilled about the black commons. I think they're one of the weaker archetypes. Of course, there's strong removal, but overall, there's not really impressive creatures. There's one which I think you can maybe abuse, which is, and I will add it, I should have added it to the presentation, but I will do it as a layover. It's the with bees, which has 1 black mayhem, which I think is very good, that if you can, with flash, so if you can discard that at instant speed, then you can instantly flash it into play, block with it. I think that one could be interesting, but it only goes pretty much in the black-red deck, or maybe black-blue with Connive, because then you can also discard it. Anyway, the black uncommons are way better. There's Tombstone Career Criminal, which is a 3 mana 2/2, and it says, when it enters, return target villain card from your graveyard to your hand. Villain spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. This reminds me of the Honest Rutstein in the last set with the cowboys and stuff. Why can't I think of it? Well, you know which one I mean. It had pretty much the same thing. It gave a discount, but it was a 3/2 in black-green, and it was any kind of creature. So it's not as good, but since this is only 1 color, I think this will be an amazing card, because in black you will have many villains, and then being able to cheaply play more villains, I think this will be great. Of course, you can also perhaps maybe somehow bounce this thing and you would get even more value from it. Next one is the Spots Portal. It's an instant. It says, for 3 mana, put target creature on the bottom of its owner's library. You lose 2 life unless you control a villain. Now, I would ignore that last part. You losing 2 life is probably not the end of the world, even if you do. But the most important thing is just a 3 mana instant speed. Remove any creature, because putting it at the owner's library at the bottom is pretty much the same as exile, because the odds that you will see that thing again are very slim, unless the opponent goes very long or they shuffle their library. But I wouldn't be too scared of this. I would just see this as a 3 mana instant speed removal. Very good card. And there's Prison Break, which has the first Mayhem ability, which I can then explain to you. It's a 5 mana sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Well, we have seen that a few times. But it has Mayhem 4. And Mayhem 4 means the same as Madness, but then timing rules still apply. So you cannot do this at instant speed. It is a sorcery, so you have to do it in one of your main phases. If you get to discard this card, and there's many ways to discard cards, for instance with Connive or with red, which you will see in a minute, you can play this for 4, which is pretty good. Also should keep in mind that the +1/+1 counter, of course, enables you to have a creature which is... what is it again? The thing where it gives bonus whenever it deals damage, for instance. I cannot think of the word, forgive me. We'll go to the next color, which is green. The best green commons, I think, and also green commons, I was not too impressed with some of them. I think this one is actually pretty good, but it's like the only very good green common that I saw. It's a 5 mana 4/3 with web slinging for 3, so you can maybe get this 4/3 for 3 into play. When it enters, search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Well, if you can get this to web sling at 3 by having a tapped creature and then returning the tapped creature, preferably with an enter the battlefield ability, then this is amazing. You get to a ramp, you have more mana. You can later then return this with another web slinging ability and then put that one into this one back into play. I think this will be a very good performer, but unfortunately, again, it is legendary, so I would not play more than 2 of these. Next one is Professional Wrestler, which is a 4 mana 4/4, and when it enters, create a treasure token. Very good thing to bounce, of course, but I think one of the more important things is the last sentence. This creature can be blocked by more than one creature. I think this one will be very good if you are up against anything red, white related, simply because those creatures will often be smaller, and this is one of those things which will easily be tapped at the end of your turn because the opponent has to chump it, or the opponent lets it go through. Then you can just return it with the web sling ability and play it again and get a treasure. And the last one, Lurking Lizards. It's not one which I'm very sure of. There was, of course, the blue card in Final Fantasy, which was also a 1/3, which had a pretty similar spell. It was unblockable, however, and this one is not unblockable, but this one gets trample. However, it is important to note that, as far as I know, that whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, doesn't mean that you had to have paid 4 mana. So, for instance, the Spider-Man Brooklyn Visionary on the left, if you have the Lurking Lizards and you play this for the web slinging ability, you will get a counter on this because the mana cost of the card is actually 5, but you didn't pay 5. Same goes with the Mayhem abilities. They are often also more expensive than what you get to pay for it. So this could be pretty decent, but I'm not sure how good it will be. I think if it's actually decent, then the trample is very, very relevant, but I don't think it will be better than the blue Sahagin thing from Final Fantasy. Now after the green uncommons. First one, Spider-Man Heroic Horde. It's, I think, the only, or maybe one of the only cards which has a more expensive web slinging cost than its actual cost. So at worst, this is at worst, this is a 2 mana 2/3, which is already pretty good. Now, if you can actually get this to web sling, which means pay 6 for it, then when it enters, if they were cast using the web slinging, you gain 3 life and create 2/1 green spider creature tokens with reach. Now, I think the reach is very, very relevant, but also the fact that it's spiders, because we will get into it more, but spider is an archetype which is very important, hence the name, of course, Spider-Man. You understand. I think this card will be pretty good. You should pick this highly. Next one is Damage Control Crew. It's a 4 mana 3/3, which of course is not amazing, but I like the art, by the way, him holding the pumpkin thing from the green dude. Anyway, I'm not a big Spider-Man fan, but I've seen a movie a while ago. It has 2 options when it enters, so also another creature which you can return with web slinging, then play again. It has Repair, return target creature card with mana value 4 or greater from your grave to your hand, or it has exile target artifact or enchantment. Now the reason I think this one is pretty good, because at turn 4, even if you play this at turn 4, you will pretty much always have a target. Either something has died, or the opponent has a target artifact or enchantment. If not, then it's a 3/3 for 4, but you will probably need to play it. You'll play something else. I think this will do a lot of work. And the last green uncommon, which is one which cares about spiders. When this enchantment ends, create a 2/1 green spider creature token with reach. Then you gain 1 life for each spider you control. So it's 4 mana, get a 2/1 and gain 1 life, which of course is not amazing. But that spider gets bumped because it says spiders you control get +1/+1 and can't be blocked by creatures with Defender. I'm not sure if there's any creatures with Defender. I don't think it's very relevant here. But actually you get a 3/2, and all the other spiders that you have actually get bumped as well. If you are in green-white, which cares about spiders, you should pick this very highly. And maybe even, imagine this is the 4th pick, someone passed this, you can actually take this and go into pretty much spider theme deck, and this will be an MVP. Now to the next color, which of course is red, and then we'll get into the multicolored and the artifact. One of the best commons for red is Romantic Rendezvous. It's a sorcery. It says discard a card, then draw 2 cards. Now, I told you already that discarding a card is of course relevant because of the Mayhem ability, but please keep in mind that this card actually says that it's not an additional cost. So if you get to play this card with an empty hand, you don't need to discard a card. If your hand is empty when you play this, it's just 2 mana, draw 2 cards, which is great. But then again, there's many cards in red which you would like to discard because of the Mayhem ability, which I will get a few of, you will see. Shock is back, 1 mana, 2 damage to any target. I mean, it's solid, especially if you go aggressive, if you want to have cheap kill spells for your opponent's creature so he can get through with damage. You should play Shock. And the next one is Electro's Bolt, which is a 3 mana sorcery. It deals 4 damage to target creature, and then it has Mayhem for 2. Now, as an example, imagine your hand has only the Romantic Rendezvous and the Electro's Bolt. You play the Rendezvous for 2, you discard the Electro's Bolt, then you draw 2 cards, and you can play you can pay 2 mana to deal 4 damage to target creature. Well, that is the thing that red wants to be doing, and I think it will be pretty solid actually if you can pick up enough ways to actually discard things. Off to the best red uncommons. Now there's Wisecrack, which is the following. It's an instant for 3 mana. Target creature deals damage equal to its power to itself. We've seen that before. Last set it was something with if that creature has flying, it deals twice that damage. Well, here it says, if that creature is attacking, Wisecrack deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. Now, the majority of cards in the set has more power than toughness, so it will actually not be too much trouble to kill something with this for 3 mana at instant speed. There's a lot of big dudes which you can use to kill this with. It doesn't care about the toughness, which makes it very strong. So it can kill a 6/6, it can kill an 8/5. You get the idea. The fact that it's at instant speed makes it also very useful, because you can always use it after you jumped with a 1/1. For instance, the opponent attacks with a 6/7. You jump with a 1/1, then the opponent plays a second main phase, he wants to pass turn, and you say, well, now that creature, which already dealt 1 damage to, is going to die. Next, red uncommon. Superior Foes of Spider-Man. It is a creature, human rogue villain, relevant type, so it's also in red. It's a 3/3 trample at worst. Now, that is already pretty decent because there's a way to modify this, put counts on it. Modify, there's the word, I lost that one. But it has more. When you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you may exile the top card of your library. If you do, you may play that card until you exile another card with this creature. I think this card will be amazing. The fact that you can play this on turn 3, or maybe imagine you're at turn 6, you play this, you have 3 mana left, and then a way to discard something and get the whole thing going. Because, yet again, the common that I showed last time, the 4 mana sorcery, which you can cast for 2, it will trigger this effect, because it actually has mana value 4 or greater. A great card for card advantage, and as I said, at worst it's a 3/3 trampler for 3. I would play this, maybe even first pick it, it's very good. And then we get to the red, I think the signpost uncommon for red, which you will hate to play against, it's Raging Goblinoids. It's a 5/4 haste for 5 mana, which is not amazing, but it has a mayhem for 3. So imagine you discard this, for some reason you connive it away, or you use one of the common cards which you can actually use to play this. And you can then play it for 3 mana, pre-combat, and attack with this. If this is actually their like 3rd or 4th pick, I would take this and just go into the Mayhem ability, because it will be very, very strong. Now there's actually one more red uncommon which I want to tell you about, so I'm not going to go 3 but 4, simply because I think red is very, very strong when it comes to its commons, if you can actually get the Mayhem thing to work. It is Hobgoblin, which of course you know. It's a 1/2 flying haste. It's also a villain, important. When you discard a card, Hobgoblin gets +2/+0 until end of turn. This is one of those cards which if you play it on turn 2, it can deal 1 damage. Then the next turn, there's many ways that you can actually get to discard something, but it doesn't say it only can happen once. So if you can discard multiple things, this will build up and it will trigger and it will deal a lot of damage. Of course, it's a very aggressive card. I would not play this in red-white or red-black. Yes, I would play it in red-black, red-green. It mostly has a home in red-blue or red-black. This is why I wanted to leave it out at first, but I think it's worth mentioning. Now we get to the multicolor cards, which are very important in this set. There's some with generic mana, which you can, use multiple colors to play it, but you'll see. Let's go to the commons first. I think the best, or maybe one of the best uncommons for this set is the 2 mana 1/1 creature. When this creature enters, draw a card. Now, it is. If I wasn't in white green, I don't think I would play this card because double white is very difficult to play, especially at turn 2, or double green is also pretty annoying to play. So I would mainly play this in green white, especially of course because of the web slinging ability. I know you understand why. Simply so, if you can return this somehow, you get another card. It will be amazing. However, the downside is this will be very difficult to have tapped, well, at least by attacking. There are other ways, I will show you them in a minute. If you can swing with this, it will be tapped, then of course you can return it, but if it's not tapped, then it's pretty annoying. But anyway, 2 mana for a 1/1 which draws your card is already very good. If you sacrifice it, if you jump with it, you don't really lose a card, so to say. And then we get to this one, Pumpkin Bombardment. It's either red or black, which of course shows which colors want to do which. As an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card or pay 2. So it's actually 3 mana. It deals 3 damage to target creature. It is a sorcery speed. Now, I think it's, if you want to make your deck work or get the best out of this set, I think it's very important that you look at discarding a card as a positive thing and not a negative thing. We often see it as something negative. The opponent lets you discard a card and you're like, oh my goodness, no, there goes a card. In red-black, I think there's a lot of ways that you can actually abuse this, and then it's just 1 mana to deal 3 damage and maybe play a mayhem card or put something in the graveyard which you want to reanimate with the other black card which we spoke about. This will be a very good card, and it is quite fun to actually see if it works. Next one is Spider Manifestation. It's a 2/2 for 2, and you pay either with green or with red, reach creature, and you can tap to add red or green. When it says, when you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, untap this creature. Now, I'm not sure how relevant the untapping part is, but you can use the red or the green mana for any spell. It's not limited to, maybe some kind of art creature type or whatever. You can just use red or green. So this is a 2 mana dork, which lets you play a 4-drop on turn 3. I think the reach is also pretty relevant. So you can use, cast an instant speed at the opponent's turn, then untap this and block with it. Yeah, good stuff. And the last one, I don't know how hot this one is. It has a 2/2 with ward 2. When this creature is modified, it has flying. It is a bit situational, but at worst, it's a 2/2 with ward 2, which is very annoying for the opponent to kill. Now, if you can get a counter on this, or maybe even equip it with something silly, it will have flying and it can go the distance. But I would only play this if you are in blue-white. It is interesting, by the way, that some of the 2 mana signpost cards need double of the color, but for instance the Manifestation only needs red-green and 1 generic, which makes it so much easier to cast. Off to the next one, and this is the uncommons. We have Rhino Barreling Brute. It's a 7 mana, so it needs some red and green. Legendary creature, human villain, 6/7, Vigilance, Trample, Haste. When Rhino attacks, if you've cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, this turn draw a card. If it's turn 7, you play this, you get to attack with it, you get to draw the card because you played a spell with mana value 4 or greater. So that is already amazing. Of course, this effect stays. So, for instance, next turn you kill something of the opponent which costs you 5 mana, you attack, you get another card. This can be one of those engines that if your opponent doesn't deal with it quickly, they are in big trouble, because the trample makes it amazing. And of course the vigilance, very good. Next one is Morbius the Living Vampire, which is a 3/1 for 4 mana in blue and black, Vigilance, Flying, and Lifelink. It says 2 mana, a blue and black, exile this card from your graveyard, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. If you think this creature is too expensive to do what it must, I think you're wrong. 3/1 is very good on a flyer, especially if it has Vigilance and Lifelink. But also, if you get to discard this somehow, for instance with the Connive in blue and black, you have this in your graveyard, and then you can use the ability, which is pretty much just an improved draw effect. So this is one of those cards which you want to put in your graveyard, and even if you play it and you trade something and then it's in your graveyard, you will still get advantage from it. Next one, and I will have one more slide with the uncommons because I think there's pretty strong uncommons. Not everyone is as strong as I think, but I think this one is very good. It is a 5 mana 4/4 Vigilance. When it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So you make a creature modified. Then, when a modified creature you control deals combat to a player, draw a card. Now there's quite some flyers in the set, but also creatures that you can just put a counter on and then get through with damage. So if you play this on turn 5, put a counter on something that's going to go through, you draw a card. You've already gotten your value out of this card. Very strong card. Next one, Spider Girl Legacy Hero. It's a spider human hero for 2 in 2/2. During your turn, Spider Girl has flying. A 2 mana 2/2 with flying is great. Then, if it leaves the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white human citizen token. Again, leaves the battlefield. You get the idea. You fly, you attack with this, fly. On turn 3, you play something with web slinging. You return this. Then you'll get a 1/1 green and white human token. You can later play this again. I think it will be pretty good. Now, this is one of those cards which I understand that they made a legendary, simply because if the opponent has too many of these, you can just go too far into it. Next one, and the last one for the uncommons, are Web Warriors. 5 mana 4/3. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. I think this is a very good card. Even if you get it to trigger once, you just enter the battlefield, this thing gets killed. You would have probably on turn 3 or turn 5 probably put like 3, at worst 2 counters on creatures. There's still something remaining of this creature when it's getting killed. Very strong. And of course, with the web slinging, you understand. Now for the artifacts, I don't think there's many nor impressive artifacts in the set. However, there's 2 that I want to mention, and please bear with me. The first one is Subway Train. The reason being, it says it's a 2 mana 3/1. When this vehicle enters, you may pay an extra green, so that's 3 mana in total. If you do, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. This is one of the few cards where you can which you can use to splash in your green color. So if you want to go 3 colors and you are already in green, which of course green is one of those colors which can do that easily, this is one of the many ways, or one of the few ways, sorry, to actually get those basic lands and fix your mana. But there's also something else relevant, which is the Crew 2 ability. Now, in many decks, especially of course green-white, you want to have the tapped creatures for your web slinging. This is a very safe way of getting tapped creatures. Even if you don't attack with the creature, you can just crew this up, then use the web slinging, get value. And same goes for Spider-Mobile, which I think is very strong. It's a 3/3 trampler for Crew 2. When this vehicle attacks or blocks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each spider you control. So of course one that you want to play in green, especially because there's many spiders in green and white. At worst, this is a 3/3 trampler, which you have to crew for 2. But then again, the crewing 2 can be an upside, and you should look at it like that. Now, this was my guide. Overall, when it comes to the Spider-Man set, I am interested in playing it, though the whole idea of Magic, and I hear this from many friends of mine as well, feels like it's kind of lost, simply because there's too many real-life things in the set which make it more than closer to reality, which many Magic players don't really enjoy, and I understand them. It's also a set which is more basic, which of course makes sense, because they want to use this set to draw more people to Magic the Gathering. And if you do that with a very complex set, then for instance Final Fantasy, I think many people maybe got to know Magic because of Final Fantasy, but that was a very complex set, and this one is actually way easier to play and also to get into. Now, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you found my content in any way enjoyable. It was not perfect. I was trying to do it in one take and then stuff went wrong. Anyway, such is life. If you did like what I do, feel free to leave a comment, click some of those buttons because it helps me out. And in a few weeks, when data is on 17lands.com, I will come back probably and just as last time check if I was actually correct with the best commons and uncommons for this set. Now, I hope to see you next time again, and I wish you a lot of luck with your upcoming pre-release event if you go there. Peace.
Grab the card, shuffle dreams in the palms. Dad's drafts roll heavy, we bombing like psalms. Stacks on the table, strategies the flex. Running these lines like counterspell checks. Dad drafts in the zone, pulling rares from the throne. Mana on the stack, magic seeds we've sown. From poppers to planeswalkers, the board gets owned. Welcome to Dad's drafts, your new homegrown. Welcome to Dad's drafts, your new homegrown.